Okay, so some minor teething problems. So sorry for that. Let us start our evening. The first sit chat, you can all switch on your cameras so that it will get recorded in our video and visibility. The basic idea is that we increase the visibility so that all of us can be recognized by others in our group. Hi, Dr. Rajiv, how are you doing?
Ram everyone.
Namaskar.
All good, Nakaji.
And others also can please switch on the cameras if you wouldn't mind, so that your face becomes recognized. Now, the basic idea of this activity is to really discuss and chat on some topics about startup, which would be of interest to everybody, and then try to see if we build up a community over time. Today we have about 8 of us, and I'm sure as we move along, it will increase. It will not be coming down. So with that very brief, Vijay, can you hear? You can't hear us, is it? Vijay? Can you hear me, Sagar, Rajiv?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Yes, Vijay, you can hear?
I can hear you.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. So now, without much ado, I would pass on to Rajiv to talk about this topic. See, one of the challenges that any startup has is finding an investor first, and after that, shortlisting the right investor. That is equally important. So, from that perspective, Rajiv, what would you say? You know, maybe you start off, and after that, Rohit can join, and others can chip in with their thoughts on that. Hi, Rohit. How are you doing? The question which I have is, see, when you look at investors, there are so many players in that entire space. You have somebody who could be called as somebody who referred. So maybe he's seeking some kind of a referral fee or a success fee. And then there is the company which is providing the investment. Maybe they have got some processing fee. And apart from that, there could be referral fee. Then there could be also the final loan amount which you are going to get, or the investment amount which you are going to get. That is one part of it. Second is, in terms of the investment itself, there are multiple types of investment which could be thought of. Fundraising, it could be debt equity or private equity, or it could be crowdfunding, it could be loan, etc., etc. If you can just give your wisdom on that, Rajiv, because you've been there for a long time in this space, then we can get others to contribute on that topic. And also, if anybody wants to ask a question, you're most welcome. Rajiv, over to you.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you very much, Dinakarji. See, my points which I'll be putting forward will be basically based on my own experiences, and I always welcome anything which we can discuss about, and we can align our thoughts. But when it comes to choosing the investor for any startup, I typically go by a 25-pointer formula for me, and which I have developed over time. And I hope I'll remember all that. The typical 10 pointers which normally the startups and founders I have seen, they have always focused on when selecting an investor is the investor I'm trying to get in bed with, or I'm trying to partner with, are his goals aligned with my company's goals, my long-term strategy, my vision. That is one thing they always look at. We should, and if someone doesn't look at, they should look at. Second is in terms of industry expertise. So is the investor whom I'm trying to partner with has the knowledge and experience of the industry I function in?
Yeah, Rajiv, just a short interruption. I think we should have done a small introduction of each one of us, which we didn't do. I'm really sorry. First time I'm also a little fumbling. So my name is Dinakar. I have been delivering German manufacturing excellence and execution excellence to Make in India. That's my brief. And Rajiv ji, if you can brief introduce yourself and then continue, it will be great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dr. Rajiv Dalmia, and last few years I've been focusing on startups, and I've been mentoring globally 2,000 plus startups across all industries. I've also got a recently published Amazon bestseller book on future relevant Me 2.0. I've got multiple awards featured in the Times Magazine, and a lot of my white papers have featured in Harvard and other publications. I've done sessions in pretty much most of the top tier one universities and colleges across the world. My career mostly has been, before this startups and all, my career has mostly been in corporate world, the likes of Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, consulting companies and platform companies. And that's what I do currently, is mentoring a lot of startups, and have 2-3 different companies that I have of my own as well.
Yeah, so please continue with your wisdom. Yeah.
Okay, so so when the goal alignment part is checked, the industry expertise part is checked, typically what I advise startups is to ensure that you check what kind of network and connections that your investor come with, right? Fourth is typically the track record of the investors. You know, what kind of previous investments they have done. Is it in the similar line of business and industry? Is it in the similar country, and so on? The fifth one is, again, very important point. Does the investor only come with deep pockets, or did they also come with value beyond the capital? You know, how can they support it with mentorship, resources, and connections, and so on? The sixth point is normally, what kind of long-term commitment can you expect from those investors? You know, are they really patient investors who will handhold you for a longer time? Because no one can guarantee what kind of time a company will take to reach the level they want to, right? So what kind of long-term commitment they have committing. The sixth one is normally the reputation and chemistry in terms of, reputation and trustworthiness of the investors, you know. So a simple market research on previous investments done and how the final outcome happened with those startups and so on. The eighth one is compatibility with yourself and your company and your leadership team, the chemistry between different relationships being formed, right? Again, very important. I also always advise the startups to do the basic level of due diligence, you know, on the potential investors. And there are multiple firms and freelancers available to that, even analyst reports and all that. And the 10th one, which normally the startups are doing, and always important to do, is the legal and financial considerations, right? Is the terms and conditions in the agreements fair and both sides a win-win for both, and so on and so forth, right? While most of the startups are mostly doing this, there are another 15 points which I think are often it is overlooked, but are very important when choosing an investor. And those 15 ones are like, what is the fund type, right? And what is the location of the fund? And we can maybe talk in detail if required on this. Say, for example, a lot of funds you will see, or startups you will see Delaware registered, or someone in Cayman Island registered, and also how do we differentiate what is right and wrong, right? What is the fund type? What is the niche expertise and successful investments that they have done? So one part is successful investments in similar area, but you'll always have some investors who are who are focused on a particular industry or type. For example, an investor focused on agri-tech kind of business. That will always make sense, a little more sense than others, because they can cross-pollinate a lot of ideas here and there. Third is the average ticket size that these investors normally invest in. For example, I'm looking at a 5 million, but typically all their past historical ticket size have been like 1 million or less. Then we need to be really careful about choosing these investors. We need to deep dive and understand why suddenly a jump of 500% kind of investment. We need to check the kind of network and exposure this investor can bring on the table for us, right? In terms of network of their own investors, VCs, family houses they have tied up with, the kind of advisors and mentors they will bring on table, and so on. See, the investors community in itself, whom we are trying to be part of, they themselves are human beings, 1 or 2 or 5 individuals, right? So this founders or this community, what is their own personal network and community support that they can provide, right? That's also like-mindedness, the attitude as a professional, as a person, how they are. What kind of global market access that they can facilitate for us, right? Say, for example, startups normally will have some very ambitious plans of launching in various countries. Now, if the investor is very siloed to a particular country, it will make sense that you move to another investor who can give you a global market access. Typically, we also see some investors, they are not one investor, but they are multiple parties involved, and a community of investors community, or group of investors. Now, what kind of fundraising plan, strategy, the VC's connections that they have internally, how can they accelerate our fundraising efforts through that partnership or through that particular investor? Again, alignment with our strategic objectives that we already spoke about, but normally what happens is, and I've seen that we have seen alignments at tactical and operational level, but we have not seen a lot of times the strategic level alignment doesn't happen, and that's what hurts in long run. See, there are sometimes you will find investors who are very siloed in their approach, that we will sponsor this particular event or this particular part of your startup. So if a startup has multiple ideas, multiple things that they are doing, okay, we will invest only on this. So that kind of sponsorship considerations, if that is the case, then we have to see if that fund that is being provided is enough to cover the expenses of that particular idea or not. And second, do you want to diversify and have multiple investors in multiple ideas within your startup, or you want one investor funding all of your initiatives? 10th one is in terms of our cultural fit. Again, very important, but mostly overlooked. Availability and accessibility of the investors. Again, we have seen, multiple times, in fact, hundreds of times, that MOU and an agreement is signed for the sake of signing, and okay, we have an investor now, we have a mentor now, a community now, but the investor's willingness and availability to provide the guidance at the right time, and that becomes very critical. If someone is not available when you actually need the person, doesn't make sense. So clear agreement on availability. In terms of legal and paperwork, the board seat dynamics. Sometimes investors approach to give fund is, I need seat in your board, those kind of things. So a clear agreement, what you are willing to dilute and what you're willing to give to the investors needs to be very, clearly agreed upon and black and white, right? Exit strategy. Most often the investors have their own way of documenting very complicated way the exit strategies. Now that means we need to ensure that the investors' expectations versus the startup founders' expectations in terms of timelines or strategies or long-term plans and conflict management and all in the exit strategy is very well documented. Again, we spoke about reputation in the industry. That I think right worded testimonials, personally spoken and discussed and collected, feedback of the investors really helps, because again, millions of investors available in the market, individually, fund houses and so on, and all spread all through. We need to be really careful on choosing the right investor with the right reputation. And I don't know, I cannot re-emphasize the point enough, but value beyond capital is something which we just cannot miss. I always advise startups to ensure that don't go after an investor if you cannot get value beyond just the money of the investor. Because, for example, if with the right partner or the right investors, the entire investors team's experience, their brand, their name, their network automatically is in play for you. If it is not the right partnership, you miss on that big opportunity. Here or there, the partnership has to happen. So rather happen with the right partner who brings more value just beyond capital. Capital will come. So all these 25 points very, very quickly, which I summarized, see, all of them play a very significant role in shaping the dynamics and the success of the investor founder relationship, right? Now, I always advise startups to give equal consideration and a careful consideration to each one of them. Very important. Choosing the right investors with a sense of ownership, like a true partner, I mean, that is very crucial for the startup's future. And this is not a decision to be taken in hurry. Oh, we need to really get an investor fast. We cannot do that. Consider multiple options. Select investor come partner, and not just an investor who is aligned with the needs, aspirations, strategy, the attitude, and everything. And last but not the least, once we get a lot of options of investors, I always advise, maybe 2 or 3 that we zero down on. Collect their agreement draft, no commitments, collect their agreement draft, go through it, analyze it, evaluate it, all the potential benefits, the drawbacks, the hooks, the exit strategy, and take proper legal advice, make informed choice. A partnership with someone who can bring value beyond just capital, with all these points in mind, I think is what is crucial in this founder investor relationship.
So thank you a lot, Dr. Rajiv. What about these middlemen? That is one area where, if you can throw a little light on that, you could have somebody wanting a referral commission, somebody wanting a success fee. How does that work in this industry, in this space?
Okay. See, every investor, in whatever capacity they come, be it the fund houses, VCs or anything, everyone charges success fees. So that is part and parcel of investment game. It's not about middleman; it's directly the investors who charges that. Middlemen's they charge their own commission to bring the investor on the table for the people, right? Or I would reword it in other way. See, investors, they work typically as is known in the market is for equity, right? They charge equity, they take equity of the startup. And middlemen are normally, they can be investors, or they can be, as we call middleman, or they can be incubators and facilitators. They charge success fee, which is a normal in the market. So I don't think that should be a problem. And it's very small amount, right? It's typically, the maximum I have heard is, I think 6% of the fund raised, which is very small amount. And this is typical globally. Indian market, I have seen maximum going to 4% of the fund raised, and that's pretty much fine. Beyond success fees, the middleman, if they are charging anything, it has to be value driven. For example, if it's only a fundraising game and percentage of the fund raised is success fees charged, that's fine. But if they are charging anything beyond that, for example, 1%, 2%, or 5% of the equity of the company, and that's again a normal. That has to be 100% value driven. Like you're giving me mentorship, you're handholding me for like whatever long time, 18 months, 24 months. You are making me fundable. You're making me funding ready. If that is the case, that percentage of equity in the company is again a normal thing.
And normally these payouts, let us say a success fee or a processing fee, would it be done post the final decision of the investments, or would it be done in advance in anticipation of the investment?
So success fees are always after the investment.
After that, everything is after that. That means the cash has to come first. Only then comes the next decision of distributing it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sometimes some middleman, they charge a small amount. Like for example, in Indian parlance, 1 lakh, 5 lakh rupees for our effort that we'll be putting together to mentor you or to get a lot of investors to you and all that. But always there is a cap. One is that, and that should be mutually agreed, like 5 lakh rupees and for all the effort. And a cap to how many chances or how many investors will I put in front of a startup.
Okay.
And why I'm highlighting this point, Dinakar sir, is because many times, again, I have burnt fingers. So I have a commitment with a startup. I'll put you in front of, say, investors for your funding. I'll get your funding ready and get your funding. Now the the startup founders are not able to pitch themselves properly, showcase themselves properly. How many times will you give an opportunity? So normally this middleman agree to a cap saying like maximum 4 investors or 4 opportunities. 4 times will put you in front of investors. If you don't succeed, your money which you have paid that's all is done. Our relationship ends there.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now the house is open to discussion. Sagar wanted to discuss something. Then Aditya also wanted to say something. Please go on. I'll put on the gallery view. Whoever wants to speak, please go on. Yeah. Sagar.
Hi, I'll go.
Yeah.
Dr. Rajiv, hi. Good evening once again.
Good evening. Ram Ram Sagar ji.
Ram Ram boli. Good evening se kaam nahi
chalega. Dr. Rajiv, now sticking on to the topic of middlemen. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have a kind of a due diligence both for the investees and for the investors. Are there any modus operandi for the due diligence of these middlemen only? That is a big headache now.
See, normally the middlemen all across the world you will see Sagarji operating are people with industry name, recognized names in industries. You will never find any middleman who is not known in the industry. So that due diligence part, 50% part is already covered. Second part to that is, and with the recent scams and events that we have seen in last just few months, that big names involved and then still a scam of a big cadre. So yes, due diligence is something which is a own responsibility from the startup side. If they are involving any middleman for their investment and money is involved, it is their own responsibility to do whatever right due diligence required and then go with that. We are all spoiled with the choices, Sagarji. We have thousands of middlemen sitting here. It's completely the ownership of the startups to do the right due diligence and select the right middleman.
But
thank you so much.
But one small question, sorry.
Yes.
Are we covered by any laws? Are we covered by any governance as such today with this middleman at all? Because this involves financial as well as credibility issues. Are we today covered by any such legal?
Absolutely. So, see, there is no specific law guiding, say, for example, startup or funding and this and that, but everything falls under the legal preview of the stamp paper agreement that is signed, right? It's that stamp paper agreement, every word of that is governed by the local jurisdiction mentioned in that paper.
So again, I think that was a very interesting hint in telling that, look, don't do any cash outflow till the paper is agreed. There is a paper and somebody has put the signature.
Absolutely.
Without that, no cash outflow for any company, any startup, irrespective of what the temptation is. Now, Ninad, you had a question. Can you please go on? You can only ask. Ninad, and then we come to Aditya.
Hi. This is Ninad.
I wanted to ask that suppose there are a lot of VCs in the market available, and when they come approach us, they ask for a fees for signing up. Is it legal? Even before bringing the investor in front on the table.
Oh yes, absolutely legal. There is nothing that stops that, Ninadji. See, as I said, every legal item or aspect is governed by what is being signed on a stamp paper between two parties.
Okay.
Any agreement that gets signed between two parties becomes a contract and then legally bindable. And if that paper says that I will initially charge you 5 lakh rupees for my efforts, no one can deny that.
But it is important, like you said, to have the paper before that 5 lakh is paid to anybody.
Absolutely.
So then you can at least hold that person accountable if that effort is not really delivered.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Aditya, would you like to ask your question, please?
Sure, Dinkarji. Thanks, Rajivji. Thanks for your time and etc. So let me introduce you first in our 2 lines. So professionally, I'm a chartered accountant, and with around 20-year experience. And I started one educational startup, which is Numismatics Academy and Worldola. We are discovering the world culture, history, geography, art, and GK. Little different. We will talk about some other time. So Rajivji, question for you specifically, even when we are going for a VC, even before that, especially when for a seed funding, okay, at the time when you don't have a revenue at all, okay, and many of time in my stage, if I talk about, at least we have some product to demonstrate, we have some interaction, which is non-revenue, but we do have some users, we have some recognition at a national and international platforms. But how difficult it is, because if we are talking about fees, etc., because the challenge what comes in the mind is because we have a limited fund. Bootstraps can't be go that luxury and then not have a deep pockets. Because by the time we have reached this level, we already spent a decent amount to develop that idea. Because it's not about an idea, because you have went through the thousands or hundreds of times you made a mistake, and then you come out with a finish or minimum visible product. Okay, so my question is that when the people are coming and say that we need a 10 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees, so need your experience, does it really worth that spending that 5 lakhs or 10 lakh rupees at a seed level funding in our product development, research and marketing, or given to that person? So that my idea is, once you have some revenue, once you have some kind of revenue, your probability will be much higher even without a middleman. And if you don't have a middleman, even I tell you, when you are saying that the only middleman can connect you with the 4 and 5, and the responsibility lies with the investors or the startups. But I have seen the experience that people just connect just like that. I know Rajiv, then I say, okay, Rajiv, just go and listen to this guy. He just will make you some presentation, but actually that is a false investors. They are the false investors because we have experienced that. They have no intention to invest, but they just want to listen to you because your other partner or your other associate, they made a promise that they will connect you with the 4 people. That is first thing. Second thing is, starting a startup itself is a startup now.
Okay, so let's listen to Rajiv ji. Bataiye.
Okay, so I'm not too sure if I understood the question properly, but let me attempt to
specifically advise seed funding. That time, how do we need to balance at that time, at that phase?
Understood. Okay, so let me give you a longer answer to this, so that all your basic questions, whatever I was able to understand, will be covered. See, securing investment for any startup during a business idea time or ideation time, or a seed fund for your growth, the current business climate, if you look at for startup funding, it's very strong. It's going very healthy, very, very well. At least in India, it's very good now. Now, how should a startup co-founder ideally go about securing the fund for something which is in pre-MVP stage, or say pre-revenue stage? I typically go by a 10-pointer thought. First and foremost is ensure that you have a very strong team. And when I say team, it can be just 2 members team, just 2 co-founders also, maybe 1 or 2 technical person if it's a tech company, right? Maybe 1 or 2 back-end people or a UI UX people developing your app, right? But the team is very important, because the team will cover the key positions, doing individual roles or critical roles, right? When any investor looks at investing, 50% weightage, trust me when I say that 50% weightage is given to the team, the co-founders, the attitude of the team or co-founders, how well they are involved in the startup, how much they are involved. Is it a full-time job or a half part-time, and all that, right? So first and foremost is team. Second is, be sure on the purpose. Let me elaborate that on. My personal feeling is 50% of the startups fail because the co-founders have fallen in love with the solution and not the problem. You getting my point? When a co-founder has fallen in love with the solution, they are not agile, they are not flexible to change and do course corrections. When they have fallen in love with the problem, they are open to any idea that can improve their solution, right? So please be sure that you have found the purpose with the right solution. Third is, ensure you have a prototype. When I say prototype, it's not necessarily you have a 100% running prototype and version. It can be just a beta version online, just a few users, some initial sales, even if it's test sales or whatever, a prototype or a MVP, something which you can show, something you can demonstrate. Because typically human nature is we want to see and believe, right? We want to touch and believe, right? So prototype is important. Third is, you have to be very frugal. When I say frugal, see, the the team involved in the startup, they have to be very, very sure of every penny they are spending. Stretch out. The investors really look at, are they really stretched out? Are they really looking at how they are managing their services, their expenses, their cost? Are they mindful of preserving their capital? Will my investment go in the right hands and right way it will be utilized? So being frugal is very important. The fifth point is, what is the need? How much do I need? When I'm raising a fund, this is one question every startup founder will face. At what percentage, at what valuation, how much you need, how will you spend it, right? So for example, I'm raising 1 million and I'll spend 50% on marketing, sales, 20% on this. So that kind of clear indication of how you will spend the fund and how much you need. The startup founders have to actually have a clear maths with all the right formulas in place for the need of the fund they want. Sixth is some revenue. As you rightly said, this revenue, see, investors, when they come to startups for funding, they are typically looking at companies who are already generating revenue before asking or seeking any investment funding. Even if it's a little revenue, even if it's a test revenue, $1, right? But showing that your company, your idea can make money reduces the risk for investors, right? And that's why they are more willing, right? Show the revenue capability. Seventh point, please ensure you are well bootstrapped before you're reaching out. It can be your own money, friends, family money. You know that you have bootstrapped and you have developed something MVP or prototype and started revenue. Once you have exhausted your bootstrap thing, is first thing you can go for maybe even loans. There are some available loans in the market, seed capital, funds and all that. See if there is a good credit match to your expectations. A small fund required, maybe loan is a good option. Once we have done that, the investors now look at the critical point, that is, who are the mentors involved beyond this team? Who are guiding you as a startup? Who are the people who are giving you advice? Are they industry experts? So see, when I pitch, when I take my startups to investors community for the pitch, trust me, I have one slide only dedicated for mentors. Absolutely no skipping this. So mentors are very, very important, right? Who offers industry expertise, that particular area of expertise which your business is in, and making you funding ready, basically. And then comes the last point, that when you are looking for seed funding for your company, ensure, as I was saying earlier, you are not going for an investor, but you're going for an investor come partner, someone who gives value beyond capital. Like example, networking, global market access, availability, reputation in the market, his own networks. Every individual in that investor communities, they have their own brand name in the market, some knowledge, wisdom, as Dinakar says always, right? So this all points I think should be covered and taken care before we are raising any seed fund at whatever stage we are, Aditya.
Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. Now, Rohit, you wanted to say something. Would you like to?
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Please introduce yourself and then, yeah.
Myself, I call myself Sharif Pinda, a good villain. So I run a small company in Delhi, which goes by the name of TechSaints International Private Limited, and we are mostly into research and innovation, right? So largely working with a lot of companies into event and entertainment industry, but also working with corporates. So depending on the solution at hand, the problem at hand, we do research work, do feasibility study, and see if it is doable in terms of given time, money, and everything else, right? The resource level. So we have worked right from websites to web application to mobile apps to AR, VR, RFID, NFC, IoT, electronics, mechanical systems, device development. We have done it. So we keep on working with different clients, right? So Rajiv sir said a very good, your points were very nice. And I was trying to say something, I forgot that thing. It slipped off my mind, I'm so sorry.
No problem. No problem at all. No problem.
Let me just recall and I'll connect back.
Sure. Akshata, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I had a lovely call with Rajiv today, and this is just a good time that we are having this discussion. So my question was particularly from a startup perspective that, see now, as the trend of, say, investment and funding is increasing, there are a lot of investors as well as incubation chambers which work on different domains, and they have a different group of investors altogether, and they all come with their own mentors, their own proficiencies. But what will you guide or say 5 pointers for a startup to decide कि अच्छा अब आपको investment लेना चाहिए? Because I am working with a lot of startups and there are a lot of questions that they come and ask me that, I've been approached by some startup, they like my product a lot, they like my area a lot. Should I really take an investment? Should I really dilute, my equity? They just want to, give money and they're like, up karo, and, you just be successful. There are some people like that as well, especially, people who are friends and, family, or somebody who's like just senior project good enough. So there's nothing that they want to actually invest in terms of mentoring or some kind of support.
Okay, so thanks, Akshata ji. So if I understood it correctly, when should a startup actually raise funds?
No, when should they actually think that they really need an investment? Because the trend is so high, sometimes you feel that you need an investment, but you're not actually evaluating whether you need it or not. And agar chahiye, how much should you dilute or how much should you raise?
Okay, see, let me answer the second part first. In terms of how much should we dilute, that will be completely dependent on the financial model and the business model, right? For example, let's assume 2 partners, co-founders for a company with say 1,000 number of shares or equities, as we call, say 1,000, right? Now between them, if they have say 49-51 kind of split, now how much they should dilute will completely depend on what is their financial model in terms of revenue that comes in and how much they want to raise in next 5 years, right? Because every time they raise, they need to dilute something. How jointly they work in terms of equal dilution for both partners, or one partner has to dilute much and the second partner doesn't want to dilute anything. All these and a lot of other factors that will determine how much should we dilute, right? So that is a financial calculation and something which needs to be agreed between the 2 partners along with their legal and financial team. Because this is a valuation game more than anything else, and valuation, there are 1,000 ways to look at the same company with different valuation, right? In terms of when they should agree that they need an investment or when they should get some investment, that will completely depend on a few factors. Like if they have completely exhausted their bootstrap or loans or whatever they are working on, and they really have something already in pipeline to develop, or R&D or to launch their product in market, or their sales and marketing is stuck because of lack of investment, and they have a clear understanding of the financials that with X amount, they will go from 1x to 5x or 10x or whatever, right? If there is a clear, or a, how do we call it, clear,
Roadmap.
Yeah, a roadmap which is like directly proportional, right? If they understand that mapping, that with X fund, they will reach to a Y level or a 5x level or 6x level, and they know where they want this fund for. They have completely exhausted their internal, all their sources, right? And the 5th point is they agree, and there is a external perspective of the mentors involved in the company as well, that they are funding ready, right? And trust me, 90% of the times the funding does not happen or happens on wrong terms, which is not friendly to the startups, only when the startups are not actually funding ready, but they are out in market. And with all surety, with my experience, I can tell you, I've sat in rooms with 2,000, 3,000 people, all startup co-founders, and you ask one question, who all are here for funding? Trust me, there will be hardly 1 or 2 hands which will be down. Everyone will be, yes, we all are here for funding. Everyone wants funding. Next question, you ask them, who all thinks you are ready for funding? Again, hardly 1, 2 hands will be down, the rest will be. So everyone thinks we are funding ready. But when we actually deep dive and start evaluating, trust me, 99% fail. Right? And that half-cooked rice, with that, if they go to the market, the investors push them to their terms and conditions because they are seeing the green, notes in front, and they see, okay, let's agree on this. At least we'll get funding, and this name also gets associated with me. Right. Oh, Aman name gets associated. Let me give him 20%. You have seen that in Shark Tank as well, right? So when we are funding ready, we should go to the market.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajiv. And then first we go to Namrata and then back to Rohit. Namrata, please go on. You please introduce yourself and then please share your wisdom.
Hello everyone, I'm Namrata, founder of Vega Herbals. Recently had a startups call at National Technology Week. And my question was, if a mentor come investor says he wants to bring in other investors who might be right for my startup, and also at some point he wants to be a vendor for my startup for supplying of raw materials, because he deals with raw materials required for my startup. He wants to be a vendor for me. Should I have 2 different agreements, paperwork for these 2 purposes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Let me answer this. Sorry if anyone else has any answers. But very interestingly, Namrata ji, first of all, Ram Ram. Very interestingly, very recently, a similar case happened with one of the startups. So I'm jumping to the answer. First answer is yes, there should be separate paperwork for every different kind of agreement or deal that you do with, whether even if the person is the same person as your investor or even your mentor. Paperwork is a must. Second is, should we go with that mentor or investor and agree that a different investor needs to be brought in because he's more capable or can bring some additional value? 50% of that is yes, the world goes on trust, and you have trusted the investor and mentor for so long. Trust him again on this judgment. 50% part of that is, however, please do your due diligence to that investor as well, equally as much you did for the previous one. So both parts you have to balance. Second part, should you agree to that mentor or investor to become your vendor or supplier? Again, the first part answer is exactly the same. You have trusted him for so long. Trust that he is doing something which is good for your company, because I strongly believe the success of your startup is the fees for him or her, if he is a true mentor or a true investor or a true partner for you. So trust him on that. Please do allow him to be your vendor or supplier. Again, the 50% part stays same. Do your due diligence, whatever capacity required. Paperwork is definitely a must.
Lot of prudence there. Yeah. Rohit ji, you are back.
Rajiv, I have a supplementary question on this to Rajiv.
Yeah, please go on. But you need to introduce yourself first, Manish.
I run a job tech startup. We met yesterday. On this, actually, right, vendors question I have to Rajiv is this one. See, when the vendor is getting an investor, vendor himself is putting the money. Of course, he can say this one, okay, my supplies are my money, right? So he is earning, he is giving that supply with his profit as well, right? So I'm not getting the exact money which he should be investing it. You got my question?
No, sorry, did not understand that, Manishji.
No, he is telling that I am going to barter the capital to my goods, which I am going to give it to you.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Inkarji, for
just an added question to what Manish asked. How do you think that conflict of interest could be addressed in such cases?
Exactly. And that is exactly the answer to Manish's question as well. As I said, see, there are two choices. One is the mentor or the investor might say, my own company, I can be your supplier or a vendor for something, right? That is one way. Second is, I have someone known to me who can be a vendor and supplier or supplier for you, right? Now, as a mentor or as an investor, normally we don't see any conflict of interest in such cases, because the vendor or investor, investor or mentor who has come, he comes from an industry and an expertise, and he might have his own thousands of other businesses as well, right? So there is no stopping him just because he has, suppose an agri-tech company, just because he is a fertilizer supplier, he cannot be your mentor, and vice versa. Because he is a fertilizer vendor, he knows this industry well, and that's why he has become a better mentor for you, right? So there is no conflict of interest as such. Second point is, obviously the documentation which you are doing, when you do that, as I said, documentation is a must, a separate agreement for everything. When you are doing this documentation, it is based on your due diligence, and one part of that due diligence is industry norm of the rates. For example, he's going to supply fertilizer for an agri-tech company. The industry rate is, say, I'm just making it up, $10 per kg, for example, right? You have done your due diligence, you know $10 is the rate. Now, if this guy is giving you anything better than $10, that means he is your true partner and he's giving you at a better rate. If he's charging you high, that is where your due diligence works. And you say, you know what, $10 is the market rate, why are you asking me more? So that's how you balance it out.
Yeah, maybe I can add just one more point to whatever Rajiv ji said. I feel when such a relationship is there, where the vendor also is the mentor, who is trying to increase the company value and help the company grow, I think what one should really keep in mind also is to avoid exclusivity. That means in the role of a vendor, the person who came on board should be very clear that today he has come as a vendor. That doesn't mean that there won't be any competition, because we are trying to get the best in the market, and that something should be very clear. And if that is not clear, then the vendor could take undue advantage of this company, because he also knows the internals of the company.
True.
So he may be looking at expecting a better price because he knows that this company can afford. And that situation should be avoided. And the only way to avoid that situation is to have absolute clarity on the pricing. And in the CA terminology, when you do international pricing, they call it the transfer pricing. So something like that, there are some guidelines and hints and etc. You can use that. Or you could say that, look, it is about market competition. There is no concept of any favorable pricing or anything like that. And we keep reviewing it every 3 months or every 6 months, because that's an important thing to safeguard yourself. Otherwise, the mentor vendor can take you for a ride. Yeah.
And you know what, let me add one more thing. In fact, in my experience, what I feel is when an investor or a mentor becomes your supply chain or supplier or vendor, is actually better for you. You know what? Why? Because this investor or mentor's skin is in the game, right? His success is also driven by your success. His fees is driven by your fees. His future equities and value of the equities is driven by your success. So he will always try to give you the best possible so that you succeed faster. I mean, imagine he will do everything to cut down the cycle of 10 times or a 200 times, pricing or valuation of his equity, which is a 5-year journey. Maybe he'll try to cut it down to 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Faster he takes an exit with a better valuation, better for him as well. So his skin is in the game. It's always good to have such partners or such vendors who are already your investors and
I would like to add in here, since I am in this trading industry for the last 8 years, I think I completely understand Manish's problem, where he's saying that a vendor, instead of putting in the capital, he is substituting that with the supply. And that is actually a very, very bad deal.
Yeah.
That is something that we call it as credit period. So rather than go with a credit period, don't stop. You can have a drop shipping model. Say that once our stock is sold, we'll give you the revenue, because in our industry, especially in trading, there are certain materials, the rates changed every 2 hours, okay, especially in the petrochemical industry. So, you can't fix rates. You never know. Let's say you've quoted, let's say some product, you've sold it, you've mentioned on your platform as like say 100 rupees or something, and you go back to your supplier and say, this is the order, I've got it. Suddenly he'll say, okay, rates have gone to 130 rupees, where you are at a 30 rupees loss. So we've seen such scenarios, and shipping cost is a huge headache to any, e-commerce or D2C platform today. Definitely, Manish, my recommendation would be don't go with such deals where capital is being, substituted by supply. Supply has to be completely different. If he has giving you a supply at a discounted price or giving you a credit period and giving you a capital to, grow your business, then he is a true investor and mentor. Otherwise, don't take that deal.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Akshita. Rohit ji, you have the last word.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I remember that. So basically, when everyone is looking for a startup to invest, or specifically startups who are looking for investors, right? They keep on doing a lot of witch hunting. Okay, so a lot of fighting with the bushes, but they forget that they need to get into the shoes of the investor first. Okay, before even getting into that activity of doing all those thesis and cash flow analysis, pitch decks and pitching. All those things come very secondary. It's very similar that whenever you start something, you need to do deep dive, deep research, make yourself aware how things work. Okay, so how you can do it? See, apart from there, you can, of course, you have a lot of friends and peer network, you can consult, you can see YouTube channels, and there are a lot of material on the net. But apart from that, what really can help is there are a lot of workshops being done by these angel networks across India. Why I'm saying that? Okay, how to become an investor. Why I'm saying this? Because pre-COVID, I attended a one-day workshop of Mumbai Angels. Okay, that time it costed me around 5, 6, 7K. Okay, but it was worth it. Okay, I was there the whole day. There were a lot of investors around, and they were teaching everyone, the new guys. Okay, I never invested because I never saved. So they were teaching how to become an investor. So if you can learn how to become an investor, if you get into the shoes of the investor, then you'll be in a far better position to crack the deals.
Oh, absolutely. That's, I think, very good. Superb. So thank you so much. I think we have been quite, what should I say, magnanimous in terms of time. We have overshot. Maybe I thought half an hour is sufficient, but we have almost taken 40, 50
Sir,
minutes.
Introduction is still left.
Can I ask one more question, Dinkarji?
Yeah, please.
So my question is that how do I evaluate a pre-revenue startup?
Okay. So
yeah. Okay, so there are multiple methodologies, Manish ji. There are 7, 8 different methodologies, starting from traditional ones to new ones. This is maybe what I suggest for the sake of time. This is one topic. Maybe we can pick it up as next topic some other day.
Sure.
This is a very interesting topic, and there are normally 7 to 9 different methodologies which industry uses. Maybe I can take a session on all the methodologies. Show them the calculations maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm Manish ji, offline you can connect with me. I'll tell you if you need any specifics on that. I'm sure we had a C Aditya ji, right? Aditya ji also will be knowing all this valuation methodologies, right?
Sure.
I'll take a session. Sure.
Okay. No, see, Rohit, you were talking about introductions. I didn't understand. What was that?
Yeah, I think everyone else should do the introduction.
So the format of sit chat, what I have conceptualized is whoever who talks get to introduce. In a sense, if they have got some wisdom to contribute or have a question, they get the chance to introduce. Because this is not a networking meet; it's only an information sharing meet.
Okay.
And those who don't want to contribute in terms of a question or in terms of wisdom, then they don't get the chance to introduce.
So I will give my closing introduction then.
Hi, do you have a question or you already spoke? Yeah, please go on. Akshita, yeah, please.
So it was lovely meeting all the SIT members yesterday, and we have an excellent platform. So I work in multiple domains. So we work in trading in terms of cosmetic supplies and raw materials. We are into branding, cosmetics, personal care and automobiles, R&D in cosmetics, anything related to cosmetics or branding or FMCG or D2C. Any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to share my journey and the experiences, because I started from 500 rupees, you can say, way back in 2018, basically, and have had a roller coaster of a journey. So I have a lot of stories to share. So Barish, if in case of trading, you want to discuss and, brainstorm on ideas, I am open and free to discuss.
Super. Thank you so much, Akshata. And for all the others who have joined, I am extremely thankful for such a quick response. It was only one day the time we had. And if anybody wants to talk about a specific topic for the next week, please do share. One of the topic is pre-revenue valuation, how it can be done. So either we do that next week or maybe after 2-3 weeks. So with that, I thank everybody. And then what we would do now is I would try to convert this into a video which will be uploaded to YouTube, and I will share the link in the SIT group. And if each one of you can please help all of us by sharing in your respective social media profiles, could be Facebook, could be LinkedIn. So through that we get visibility. The idea is everybody gets visibility. And because it's not just a introductory networking meet, we want to showcase ourselves as somebody who has wisdom, or we have got something we are really thirsty to find out something, right? So if you have got a question, then again, people know that you have to be a reason why you have a chance to introduce yourself and talk about your company, etc. when you have a question or you have got something to share. So with that, thanks a lot. Sagar, you have raised your hand, is it? What was that?
Is it possible for all of us to come on camera for one good photo? I mean, all faces without the black spots. May I request everyone, if possible, please?
Yeah.
There are still around 6.
Give me a 30 seconds time, actually.
Guys, by the time it's a small request.
See, by the time everybody comes on camera, I want to share an interesting, what should I say? No, not a joke. It's a situation which happened in one of the industry associations where I'm a member. The president was very interested in promoting, what should I say, patriotism and all that. So he said, after every session, let us play the national anthem. Okay. Now, this started during the COVID time. And then these guys would play the national anthem, and the national anthem is played, everybody switches on the camera. And then because national anthem is playing, you stand up, right? Half of them are all with shorts, and on the top you have a tie, coat, everything. Shorts. So then we stopped switching on the camera at the end. Only the national anthem was played.
Okay. Dinagar, it is very interesting to see your, the background what you set up, right? So I am also interested to know that how you are empowering the German technology for Make in India. So we can connect later on that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, here I go. With the interest of time, I am taking the picture, and whoever is black is black.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And then let's chat again next week. And thanks a lot. Special thanks to Dr. Rajiv Dalmia for being the man of the match today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.